Would you please state your name for the record?
Marian Baker.
And where do you live? That's where we are right now?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you lived in this home?
About 13 years.
How long have you lived in Pennsylvania?
All my life.
Okay. Were you born in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay. And are you currently employed?
No, I'm retired.
And how were you formerly employed?
Giant food stores as a cashier.
Okay. About how long did you work there?
17 years.
Okay. And are you married?
My husband died 2 years ago.
Okay. And do you have any family nearby?
Yes.
Who lives nearby?
My daughter.
Do you have any children other than this daughter?
No, she's the only one.
Okay. And how close by does she live?
About 4 blocks.
Okay. And do you have any grandchildren?
Yes.
How many grandkids?
8.
And what are the ages, the range of ages of your grandchildren?
16 to 1 year.
Okay. Mrs. Baker, how do you get around?
By my son-in-law or my daughter. And sometimes my brother.
And you're referring to if you need to go somewhere by?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Somewhere outside the house?
Yes.
How do you get around the neighborhood? Do you walk without assistance or use a wheelchair?
I use a walker, but I don't usually go around the neighborhood. I use a walker in the house.
Okay. And how long have you been using a walker?
Since 2008. Well, no, I'm wrong. I was in a wheelchair first and then went to the walker.
Okay.
And that's been 2008.
Okay. And what happened that made you start using a wheelchair or a walker?
I was at the Giant Center in Hershey at a concert. I fell. I broke my leg. They took me to Hershey Medical Center and done a surgery. And in the middle of surgery, I had a heart attack. So I was in the medical center for like 14 days in intensive care up there. And then when I came, they transferred me to Reading. Then I went to a nursing home, and then I came home, and that's when I've been recuperating since then.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a few questions about voting. Are you registered to vote?
Yes.
And how often do you vote?
Every election.
Okay. Do you remember the first time you voted?
Yes, 1960.
Okay. And have you ever run for any elected position?
Yes.
What was that?
Committee woman.
And where were you, or were you elected?
Yes.
And how long did you serve as a committee woman?
I served 2 terms, which was 2-year terms, so 4 terms, 4 years altogether, but 2 different terms.
And about when was that?
Back in the 1980s.
Okay. And were you a committee woman here in Reading?
Yes.
And was it for a specific political party?
Republicans.
Okay. And since then, have you had any other involvement in any campaigns?
Just volunteering and doing advertising for them.
Okay. And when you vote, do you vote in person or by absentee ballot?
In person.
Okay. Have you ever voted absentee?
One time when I was in the hospital.
Okay, and that was, I think you said, about 2008?
Yeah.
Where is your polling place?
The library up on 11th Street.
And about how far away is that?
About 3 blocks.
And how long have you been voting at that library?
The 13 years that I've lived here.
Okay. How do you get to the library from here?
Either my daughter or my son-in-law take me.
Okay, they drive you by car?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the couple with 8 kids?
Yes.
And, by the way, are your daughter and son-in-law both employed?
Yes.
And what kind of work do they do?
She's a waitress, and he works at a furniture factory up in Leesport.
Do they work 9 to 5?
No.
What kind of hours do they work?
He goes to work at 2 in the morning and works till 2 in the afternoon. And she goes to work at 4 and works 4 to 11 or 12, whatever.
Okay. And so they're both off work only for a couple hours in the day?
Yes.
Okay. And what time of day do you go to vote when you go?
Usually when they're home, late in the afternoon.
Okay. Is the polling place that you go to accessible to you, given that you use a walker?
Yes, it's right in off the street. No steps, no step-ups, no nothing. It's just even with the sidewalk.
Okay. And what kind of a wait do you typically encounter on election day?
Not very long the time I go. It's usually, I guess the longest I've ever waited is like 20 minutes to a half hour. Usually they aren't too busy. When I'm leaving there, it's starting to get really busy.
Okay. And is there anywhere that you can sit or take a rest at the polling place?
Yes, they have chairs in there.
Okay. Now, if you wanted to vote absentee, you would have to sign a legal declaration stating that you're unable to attend your polling place because of an illness or a physical disability. Could you sign a declaration stating that?
Not right at this time because I can get out.
Okay. And how would you feel about voting absentee versus voting in person?
It didn't really matter to me, but I think it's more if you go there. I always think, well, the one time I did vote absentee, I thought, is my vote really counting? Or did it get lost? Or I think if you go there, your vote you know is being counted. I always had that time. I had that question: did my vote really count?
Okay. Now, did you vote in the November 2012 election?
Yes.
And did the poll workers, when you went to vote, say anything to you about photo ID?
Yes, they told me that. Did I have one? And I said yes, but it was expired. And they said, well, this is the last time you can vote unless you get a new one. The next election, you're not allowed to vote.
Okay. So, have you voted since then?
No, because the May 2013, I didn't get it renewed yet, so I couldn't vote that day.
Okay. And what made you think that you couldn't vote that day?
Because they told me. I mean, they told me the day before that the law would take effect and I wouldn't be allowed to vote if I didn't get it updated, and so I didn't even bother to go out. The first time in my life since I could vote that I did not vote.
Okay.
I voted every election except in May.
And when you said they told you
At the precinct.
Okay, so the people, the
workers.
polling workers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, have you ever had a Pennsylvania driver license?
Yes.
And do you currently drive?
I could, but the doctors aren't letting me drive right now. My reflex aren't good enough for driving yet.
Okay. So, do you have any sort of ID from PennDOT right now?
Just the voter, just the ID which is expired because I don't have a driver's license right now.
Okay. And do you remember about when that ID expired?
2011.
Okay. Do you have a U.S. passport?
No.
Do you have any other ID with your picture on it?
No.
So, the ID that expired in 2011, where did you go to get that ID?
PennDOT over in Shillington.
And is the Shillington PennDOT the closest location to you?
Yes, it's the only one in Berks County.
Okay. Did you have to wait in line when you went to get that?
Yes.
Do you remember about how long you had to wait?
4 hours. I remember. 4 hours.
Okay.
That's just to get in the door. Once I got in the door, I waited another hour and a half inside.
Okay, so when you say to get in the door, were people lined up outside the building?
Yes, all the way down and around the building.
Okay. And was there something unusual about that day that made the line so long?
No, it was just a regular day. It was a weekday.
Have you ever seen a line there on any other occasions like that?
Yes, every time you go by, it's lined up.
Okay. Now, have you ever tried to renew the ID that expired in 2011?
No, I called PennDOT to renew it to see if they had any way that a handicapped person could get in without standing in line, because I could never stand in a line that long. And they told me no, that I would have to come and stand in line and like everybody else.
Okay. Do you remember when you called?
It was right after the November election, maybe like the beginning of the year, the end of the year, the beginning of the year when I started thinking about I had to do something to get voted so
Okay.
I could vote.
And when you say November election, you mean the November 2012?
Yeah, after that election.
Okay. And did you call? What you said you called PennDOT. Did you call PennDOT headquarters in Harrisburg, or where did you call?
I called PennDOT in Shillington.
Okay. And so were you able to renew that ID?
No, I didn't get it renewed yet because I just feel I'm never going to be able to go there and stand.
Okay. How would you Is that PennDOT office within? Or how far away is it to that Shillington PennDOT office?
From my house would be about 15 minutes
15
with traffic.
Minutes, and that's by car? 15
Yes.
minutes. Okay. And so how would you get there?
My daughter and my son-in-law would take me.
Okay. And could they do that? Could they take off work to do that, or when would they do that?
It would be when they aren't working. That's one reason why I haven't gone, because you don't know how long you're going to be standing there, tied up there, and they can't sit there forever waiting for me.
Okay. Is there any city bus that you can take to get there?
Yes.
Okay. And do you use the city buses?
Not since I've been hurt. I can't. I'd have a hard time to get. I'd have to walk to a bus stop, and when you get off over there, you still got a block to go to get to the, before you're even at the PennDOT.
Okay. And what about paratransit? Are there any paratransit opportunities for you?
There would be, but you got to register. It's a lot of, like, I checked into it when my husband lived. He checked into it, and it was more bother than it. I mean, you have to pay, and they come at you at their convenience. Whether you have to wait until they can take you, because they have so many, I guess, that go. But you have to wait until they can pick you up to take you. So you could be waiting forever for them.
Okay. How do you get around to things like doctor's appointments or other errands?
My daughter and my son-in-law, and once in a while, if I really need to, my brother will take me.
Okay. Does your brother live here in Reading?
No, he lives in Boyertown.
About how far away is that?
About a half hour.
Okay. And since you had your accident, have you gone on any long-distance car trips?
Not really, no.
What's the farthest you've gone?
Maybe about a 50-minute ride.
I'm sorry, did you say 15 or 50?
50.
Okay.
50 minutes.
Uh-huh. And how...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Was that 50 or 15?
50.
50? 50
50.
minutes? Okay.
15, yeah.
Okay. And did you... How was it for you to ride in a car for that amount of time?
Well, by the time I got there, I was ready to get out. Even before we got there, it was so long in the car, and I have problems.
Okay. And what sort of problems, if I could ask?
Well, with my leg being broke, I have problems like the leg's healed, but just from keeping my legs in one position, not walking it, they get stiff and it bothers me.
Okay. Now, have you ever seen any advertisements about the voter ID law in Pennsylvania?
Not recently, no.
Okay. Did you see any at any time?
When they first came out that they were going to do it, you saw it. It was on TV and in the newspaper and everything.
Okay. Have you seen any advertisements since the November 2012 election?
No. That's why I didn't know you could use it in May, because I never saw anything.
Okay. How do you get most of your news?
TV, the news station. I watch the news channels on TV.
Okay. What are there specific channels that you watch?
Fox News.
Okay. Do you subscribe to a newspaper?
No.
Do you currently have internet access from your home?
No.
Okay. Is voting important to you?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because I feel that if you want to say in your government, you should be voting. You should let them know what you want and how you feel about things.
My name's Kevin Schmidt. I represent the respondents in this action. I just have a few follow-up questions for you. You said that you've lived at this address, 1200 Mulberry Street in Reading, for about 13 years now?
Yes.
Do you have any plans on moving anytime soon?
No.
No? Okay.
My next move is probably to the graveyard.
Well, I hope not. But and you said your polling place is about 3 blocks away. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you walk there, ma'am?
I did before I had my accident. I always walked there.
Okay. And what year did you have your accident? Just refresh my memory.
2008.
2008? Okay. And after your accident, when did your doctor or any physician tell you that you were fully recovered from your accident?
I don't think anybody ever said I was fully recovered, but they cleared me in, I guess it was 2000, early part of 2010 or the late 2009, somewhere around there.
Okay. So you testified that after your accident, after your broken leg, your daughter-in-law or your son-in-law, or I guess in a real emergency, your brother could take you to your polling place to vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And would they offer that same accommodation if you needed to go somewhere else in an emergency?
Yes.
Okay. So they're available to you to get you around town or anywhere you need to go.
Yes,
Is that correct?
at their convenience. Yeah.
Correct. Now you said you at one point voted absentee ballot.
Yes.
Could you describe the circumstances around that? Why did you vote absentee?
I was in the hospital, in the Reading Hospital, and they had transferred me from Hershey back to the Reading Hospital, and I wasn't going to be out in time, and I didn't want to miss voting, so my husband got me an absentee ballot.
Okay, and that was as a result of your
Yes.
accident in Hershey. As a result of that accident, did you file a lawsuit against anyone?
No, my husband inquired about whether or not we could get my medical bills paid, and the Giant Center in Hershey said no, they won't do anything like that, so then we just let it go.
Okay.
We were tried for medical expenses.
How did you get involved as a witness in this lawsuit, ma'am?
I got a phone call from somebody that asked me if I would talk to a lawyer and cooperate in because of the ID for voting, whether or not I was voting and whether I had an ID or not. And then I told them that I did, but I had a hard time getting it renewed. And then they asked me if I would talk to a lawyer about it. So.
Who called you?
She might have told me her name, but I don't remember. It was a woman.
How did she get your name?
I don't know. That's what I was wondering. I don't know how she found out.
Did she ever, this woman, ever describe to you how she got in contact with you or
No,
got your information?
No, she just asked me, my circumstances, and then she said that if I wanted to cooperate, there would be a lawyer contacting me.
And when did this occur?
It was I'd say the past month or 2 months.
Okay. Why did she say she was calling you?
She just asked me if I was a voter and whether or not I used the Pennsylvania ID to vote and whether or not I had one and how I felt about it.
And she didn't identify a specific group that she was with?
No.
Okay. And you can't remember her name?
No, I don't.
Okay. What lawyer did she direct you to?
What's your name? Ben.
Mr. Geffen, who's
Yeah.
sitting
Yes.
to your left.
Well, that's who contacted me. She didn't tell me who she just said a lawyer will be contacting you, and he's who contacted me.
Okay. And what did they describe they needed you for?
They just wanted to know how I felt about having to vote with an ID and how I felt when I told them that I didn't have one, I had to get it renewed. They wanted to know how I felt about that I couldn't vote because I didn't have an ID.
Now just moving forward to some more of your testimony, ma'am. You said that your furthest recent travel was about 50 minutes in a car?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you go?
To Lansdale.
Lansdale? Okay. That's my neck of the woods.
Is it?
Yes.
To my friend's house
Okay.
in Lansdale.
And you went there by car?
Yes.
Okay. Who took you there?
My daughter and her husband.
Okay. And did they take you to get your groceries?
Yes.
Okay. How often do they drive you around during the course of an ordinary week?
To doctor's appointments if I have a doctor's appointment, and I usually try and do my grocery shopping once a month when I get my check, so that I have stuff that I don't have to be bothering them to take me around. And sometimes my prescriptions, they take me to pick them up, or they'll pick them up for me.
Okay. And when you say your check, what do you?
My Social Security check.
Okay.
Check.
Okay. Ma'am, what? You talked a little bit about having a PennDOT driver's license photographic identification card. Is that correct?
Yes, an ID card.
And that expired, ma'am?
Yes, my driver's license expired right after I had my accident, and the doctor said I couldn't drive, so I never bothered to have it renewed.
Okay. Okay. At any time, did the doctors clear you to drive?
No.
Okay. Has anybody told you currently that you still cannot drive?
Not, not in so many words, but I know by myself I would never put anybody at risk of driving because my reflexes, and the doctor will say my reflexes aren't very good right now.
And I guess that's your opinion as to whether or not you feel you can drive, but no doctor has explicitly said to you, ma'am, you cannot drive.
They
correct?
did at one time, but not lately.
Right. Okay. Post-accident and post-clearing your medical condition,
Yeah.
no one has explicitly told you not to drive. Is that correct?
No, no one's really. I just don't do it because I know I'm not up. I'd be afraid I'd have an accident.
Understood. Understood. Getting back to your PennDOT ID, now do you have another PennDOT photographic identification card?
The one that they gave me, that was issued to me, a Pennsylvania's non-drivers.
And does it have your photo on it?
Yes.
Okay. And is it current?
No.
When did that expire?
That expired 2011.
Okay. And what efforts have you made to renew that?
I called them at their office to see what kind of, if they had any way that I could get in there without standing in line for 4 hours to come and renew it, and they said no, that if I came, I'd have to stand in line just like everybody else did.
Okay.
And I told them I could not stand for 4 hours, and they said that's a chance I got to take.
When did you call?
Right after November 2012 election, when they told me I had to get it renewed.
Okay. And is that the only effort you've made to try and renew that?
Yes.
You've never asked them if you could renew it by mail?
No, I can. I asked that.
Okay. And what were you told?
I told them I was told I had to come in person. You have to come in person to do it. Nobody else can do it for you. You have to come in person.
And who told you that, ma'am?
Somebody from PennDOT, whoever I was talking to.
And is that the PennDOT Driver's Licensing Center in Shillington?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember when you were told that, what date it was?
It was back in 2012 after the election. Might have been towards the end of the year when I called them.
Okay. Since that time, have you ever gone to PennDOT in Shillington?
No.
Okay. Did you ever call back again to ask maybe another representative of PennDOT if you could have accommodations made for your condition?
No.
Okay. Are you willing to do that, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. So you've just chosen not to do it up to this point, is that correct?
Right, because I have a problem. You know, my son-in-law or my daughter can just take me when they aren't working, and it's not always convenient. So I got to do it when I know they can take me.
Have you ever called to ask them if there was a line before you had an opportunity to go to see if you wouldn't have to wait that long?
No, there's never, you go there that there's not a line. At least I haven't seen it.
But that's just based on your experience of being there, correct, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. And ma'am, you testified that this expired non-driver's license issued by PennDOT, that's the only photographic identification card you have?
Yes.
Okay. How long does it take you to get to the Shillington Driver's License Center?
About 15 minutes.
15 minutes? By car?
Yes.
And you don't have any problem getting there by car?
No.
Assuming your daughter or son-in-law will take you there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever, in your conversations with representatives at PennDOT, ask for any way to mail in information to obtain a photographic identification card?
Yes, and they told me no,
Okay.
you have to come in person.
You testified that you did not vote in the May 2013 election, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And you testified that you didn't believe you could based on what somebody advised you at your polling place at the time you voted for the November 2012 general election, is that correct?
Yes.
And who at that polling place told you would not be able to vote in the May 2013 election without photographic identification?
The person that worked in the polling place that signed me in.
Do you know his or her name?
No, I don't. Every time you go there, there's a different one there.
Okay.
And when they sign you in, they ask for your ID. And when you don't have it, then they told me that.
Okay. Did you find that peculiar that they told you that?
No, because I knew before I went there that the law was going to be taking effect.
Okay.
So it didn't surprise me. But I didn't think it was right because I said to them, I've voted all these years without one. Why all of a sudden? And they just said, that's the law.
Did you ask anybody else about that?
No, just
Okay.
there at the polling
You
place.
just relied solely on that on that person at the polling place.
Yes.
How about your daughter or son-in-law? Did they vote in May 2013?
I don't really know. I didn't ask them.
Okay. Did they vote in November 2012?
I think they did. I'm not sure.
Okay. As a former committee person, do you still have contacts in the political communities?
Not really. All the ones that was in office and worked in the headquarters are all new, and I don't. Since this, I haven't done any of the work, so I don't really know.
Okay. But you never called anybody at any headquarters to find out whether or not what you were told at the November 2012 election was accurate regarding voting in May of 2013?
No.
Ma'am, you said you do not have internet access, is that correct?
No, I have a computer, but I need a new drive.
Okay, so you do have internet access then?
Once the drive gets finished, yes.
Okay, and is somebody currently working on that?
Not yet, but I'm...
You plan on having it fixed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you belong to your local public library?
No.
No? Okay. We went over some of the identification cards you may or may not have, but I just want to go down a list to make sure that we're specific. Do you have a passport, ma'am?
No.
Okay. Do you have any military identification?
No.
Okay. Did you have any identification from your time as an employee at Giant?
No.
Okay. Have you ever tried to get the Department of State ID for voting purposes, ma'am?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know there was anything like that.
And I have just a very small number of follow-up questions to some of the questions that Mr. Schmidt just asked. He asked you about the line at the Shillington PennDOT location. How often have you seen a line at that location, if you can recall?
Every time I go by there.
Do you remember about how many times that would have been?
Well, at the time before I've been laid up, I used to go by there at least once a week.
Okay. And you mentioned that you voted absentee in the time when you were hospitalized?
Yes.
Why didn't you want to miss voting when you were in the hospital?
Because I thought it was important to vote, and we were voting for president that year. And I didn't want to I wanted my man to get in.
Who was your man?
McCain.
Ma'am, if I provided you documents today that you could mail into PennDOT that would expedite your time at the driver's licensing center to get your photographic identification card, would you fill those out and send those in?
Objection.
Yes.
Your answer was yes, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.